Okay, so it is possible then that you would just sign a lease and not know what the property is.
I'm going to object. He doesn't know.
Okay. Well, then I guess you wouldn't know any of the rest of my questions either. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right over here, somebody, over here. You want to raise your hand? Oh, there you go. I have a few questions, and I wrote them down so I won't take too much time, hopefully. What is the maximum number of beds and clients that Child First can envision having in Denkin House once various other factors are passed, such as COVID and whatever?
Just hang on a second. You got his name and, yeah. So, if you have the record,
Oh,
need your name.
Emmanuel Maris.
Thank you.
Did you hear the question? Should I repeat it?
I'll repeat it back to you and just make sure I have it correct. You want to know what's the maximum amount of children in beds that would be there after COVID would pass?
What is the maximum that Child First would consider using Denkin House for?
Right now it's licensed for 12. I don't see it being used for any more than 12.
How many actual rooms with doors are there in that structure?
I wouldn't know off the top
It
of
would have
my
been
head.
really good to have someone familiar with why the township would ask questions be present instead. What is the least number of salaried staff on premises at any given time? The least number, in other words, at 3 in the morning, it might be only one person, or 10 people, or what?
The least number would be 2.
Okay, what is the most number when programs are ongoing during waking hours?
There could be several salaried individuals on premises. You could have therapists, directors, senior directors. There could be a multitude of people in there.
What sort of programs did the clients have when in residence in the past few months?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What sort of programs were being conducted and how often during the last few months when there were clients in residence?
What do you mean by programs? Can you give me an example?
Group programs, individual meetings with therapists. I encompass all of that in my question.
I'm sorry, I just don't understand how to answer that for you.
Honestly. Let me see if I can rephrase it. During the day, these clients who I assume, if I've read correctly somewhere, and you can disabuse me of this notion, are actually limited to not being able to go out of the house or the building at certain times or at all times, or it depends on the client?
They're not restricted. I didn't say they were restricted to the house from like having like the ability to like go and play basketball or take a walk. They're limited from traveling to Philadelphia to see their family.
Are they limited to being able to walk down to the Wernersville borough?
Here?
Wernersville is the postal address for your building, although the township.
What building in Wernersville?
I'm sorry?
I mean, so they would be like any other individual in the community that you're free to walk where you want.
Okay, I had probably misread something that was put up not by yourselves, so I can't say that it's incumbent on you. But I thought I read where some of the clients were actually under a stricture to not leave the property. And that's why, in fact, you have doors that are locked or screwed shut, or windows that are locked or screwed shut that by fire law might not be legal. So disabuse me of this notion.
So again, they would be like you in your house. If you want to walk down to a barrel hall, you're free to go and walk down to a barrel hall.
Okay.
I mean, they wouldn't be doing it at like 4 in the morning, but you know, it's a normal hour of the day or, you know, the afternoon, they want to go for a walk, they're free to do so.
Okay. What's the job description of the 2 people who will be on all night?
So they would perform caretaking duties. So they would, you know, help with making meals and cleaning, mentoring the youth, you know.
Okay, and not, this doesn't mean janitor, but they're basically custodial staff as opposed to therapists or professionals for treatment.
They're professionals, they're not therapists.
Okay. What kind of profession are they?
They're called engagement opportunity specialists.
Wow, what a mouthful. Let's see. Are you currently renting Denkin House, or have you bought it since 2015? Is it a net lease wherein all the rent-offs or costs are borne by you with the owner's permission?
I'm sorry, but what was your first part of that question? Let's go there first.
Are you currently renting Dang House, or have you bought it since 2015?
The house is currently leased.
It's a net lease.
I'm not familiar with that term.
Net lease means that you pay the taxes and you're basically responsible for all fixing of the property.
I do know that we're responsible for fixing the property, the taxes, I don't know.
So in other words, you guys pay for all the renovations, because I've watched it going on over the years. And obviously with the owner's permission, who you're renting it from, but anything you want to do, you have to do. The landlord's not doing it.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Well, I've exhausted my questions. Next.
Donna Golding. You had testified, sorry, you had testified that the windows were, screwed or nailed shut to a certain height so that it was, to allow ventilation
Correct.
in case of a fire, as what happened last, in June, the end of June. How many egress windows are there in this building?
I don't know about egress windows. There are 2 forms of egress to get out in case of a fire per regulation.
Where are they located?
For the first floor, there's what we call the front door, but there's like a porch area off to the side, not the enclosed porch area that they could go out. There's also one across the enclosed porch area. They could also go down the steps into the basement. There's an emergency door they can get out there. And then there's another one that like goes kind of like through a kitchen area and our laundry area to the outside as well.
Those are all on the first floor?
Yes, that's the first floor.
And what about the second floor?
The second floor, there's an exit that comes out and goes down into the parking lot area. And then, I guess you would call it the back of the house. There's steps that go down and out the back door.
And how many rooms are on the second floor?
Bedrooms or rooms total?
Rooms total, on the second floor.
I believe there's 10.
And they all have direct access to that emergency exit?
Correct.
And how many rooms are on the first floor?
I think it's the same.
And how many rooms are in the basement?
It's looks like one big, actually, there's like a basement area that's kind of open, and then there's like a furnace area that would be closed off that they wouldn't have access to.
Is there any sleeping in the downstairs, the basement room?
No.
All the rooms, the 10 on each floor, are all bedrooms, or are they bedrooms and common room and kitchen and bathrooms? Are those all
Well, yeah, you had to have
included?
total, so that's.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Glenn Gibbon from 72 Preston Road. I have a couple of questions for you procedurally, from a company policy standpoint. Reason that I'm asking, just so that you know, 6 weeks ago I retired as a Commonwealth employee, 20 with the DOC and 8 with the Pennsylvania Board of Probation and Parole. So I know a little bit about community corrections and state regulation. How many times a day does the company policy require accountability for the individuals in your charge?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question for you.
So, company policy-wise, do you have to do a head count? Do you have to account for the presence of these minors at periodic times of the day?
It would depend on the youth that are placed there, you know, what their supervision levels would be, you know, how much community time they would have. It would be a lot of factors involved in that. I couldn't give you an accurate count.
Okay. And I believe your testimony was that the ages of the individuals that were there were somewhere between 13 and 18?
That's correct.
Which would make them all effectively minors until they hit their 18th birthday.
Correct.
Okay. Were any of these individuals allowed to leave unsupervised to any location off of the grounds?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
Okay. If they were to leave the grounds and not be going, with a family member or what have you to a known location, there's no way that you could tell where they were, and there's no requirements for them to be supervised by any staff member, as in.
So you're asking, for example, if somebody wanted to go and play at a playground, or if they wanted to go for a walk, would they have to be supervised by staff in that moment?
Yes.
No, they would not.
Okay, and we've agreed that they're all minors between 13 and 18.
Correct.
The other question I have is, do any of the individuals that have been there, all right, had any known affiliations with any organized groups like gangs?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Do staff that work there have training to recognize gang affiliation type behavior?
I don't run the training program, I don't know.
Okay. Who would know?
I would guess the trainer.
Okay. In regards to windows, from 2009 to 2012, I was the security lieutenant at the Warnersville CCC for the Department of Corrections. In a community setting, you're saying that it's DHS's policy or to allow the limitation of the opening of windows in a community corrections or a community supervision setting,
A group home setting, yes.
in a group home setting?
Yes.
Okay. Then DHS policy for minors must be a little bit different than state policy for corrections in a community setting, because if any of the staff would have screwed in.
Again, I'm going to object. There's just an opportunity for questions here, not statements.
Okay, I'll make my statement later.
Here we go. Yeah.
Marcia, M-A-R-S-A-J, Bars, B-A-R-T-A. You stated that your referrals come from county agencies.
Correct.
What agencies are they?
They come from Philadelphia DHS. Currently, that's where they're coming from.
That's the only referral agency you have?
We have in the past had other counties that have referred to us, but typically the majority of children come out of Philadelphia.
Okay, and what are the other agencies?
I have personal knowledge that we've had individuals from Montgomery County, but they're the only ones that I would know of personally.
And all these come from DHS, not from the court system?
The kids go through the court system, and then I guess I want to say they get put into the custody of the agency, but that might actually be the right term, and then the agency would refer them to, so DHS, Philadelphia would then refer it to whoever, potential group home would be.
Are you aware that under the old Duncan House with the elderly, we didn't have agencies or referring? Do you understand it was mostly elderly? It was pretty much testified at the last meeting that it was elderly. Are you aware of that?
I don't know the intake process for the previous occupant.
You say every child that has been there since February, January, has been disabled?
I think what we were saying is that they have disabilities, not that they're like physically disabled, but they might have some sort of a disability, like a cognitive impairment, or they've had some sort of trauma, or they have PTSD, et cetera.
Every child that's been there since you had every child, you can document that every one of them has a disability, every disability law, every child.
I don't know about the particulars of the law, but I can tell you that every child there has suffered some sort of trauma or.
That's not the question. The question isn't trauma, the question is, are they documented that they have a disability that falls under the Disability Act?
I wouldn't be able to give you that type of information.
Because everything I've read in the application and everything I've heard in testimony, I've heard that you have said every child has a disability. Not trauma, but a disability.
So,
If that's not so, I don't understand. Because you said every
I
child.
didn't say we fall under the
It's in the application, every child, not some, every child. Okay, next question. Are you saying that since you opened in these few months, that you have never had a child that was an offender?
I'm not aware of any, no.
And you can document that.
I can document, but I'm not aware of it, sure.
But your documents could have some offenders that were there that you're not aware of.
I don't deal with the day-to-day of the kids. I don't review the intake process. I don't work directly with the kids, so it wouldn't be proper for me to give you an answer to that question because I don't have knowledge of that.
That's really relevant to this case, because if even one offender comes there, see, I go to the prisons and speak, and I go to juvenile and all kinds of, and this sounds to me more like a detention center, labeled as a group home. So that's why I'm trying to distinguish between the two.
No, we're definitely not a detention center. That I can
According
answer for
to
you.
your application and what you're saying, but not necessarily according to documents that you're aware of. Because you can't testify for sure that none of them have it. So in light of that, you really can't say for sure.
I can tell you we do not operate as a detention center.
I know that, but if you have an offender, that puts you under the description definition of a detention center.
No, we would not have an offender that would require a detention center. We would not be allowed to have that.
But you can't document that.
He just testified that they're not allowed to have that.
I know, but I'm asking for documentation. I'm asking for any documentation substantial.
I do not have any documentation with me at this moment that says anything.
When you had the flood in 2016 with the pipes, and you didn't get it fixed and everything up and running in 2020, that was 4 years, correct?
That's correct.
Did the township have any part of that your pipes burst? Was it their fault?
I don't know, I wasn't part of that, I would imagine not, but
Okay, so the undue hardship of your pipes busting and taking 4 years was a hardship due to you, not to anyone in the township or the township board or anyone else. The hardship
the
is,
township didn't cause the hardship, is that's what you're asking.
exactly. So this
Okay.
hardship was due to your own,
It was due to the pipes bursting.
right, but it was
Yeah.
due to your own problems, nothing to do with anyone else.
It had nothing to do with anybody. The
That's
pipes burst.
relevant, because to claim undue hardship, it has to be the fault of the township, not the fault. It has to be not your fault. This had nothing to do with us. It was none of our fault that your pipes burst.
No, it
It
wasn't the
wasn't our
township's
fault.
fault, no.
So, I mean, I don't see where you qualify for a variance under that.
I'm not a lawyer, I can't answer that.
Okay. I just want to clarify that. From 2016 and 2020, did you ever contact the township? Did you ever say, hey, we're working on this, we're still going to keep going through, da-da-da? Had you had any communication?
I had contact with Craft Code during that period, but I guess not specific, like a zoning board member or something like that.
So they had no idea if you had abandoned the project, what was going on, because you didn't do anything for 4 years.
My understanding was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna object, that's not his testimony. They did a lot in 4 years.
I'm not asking, that's why I'm asking if he has knowledge of that.
Kind of stuff. It's not discussion. He objected. It's just saying he answered the question that they had contact with Kraft. So he did answer that question, so we can move on to the next one.
Is there a reason why you had 4 years there that you didn't even, I know you had to get the place ready, but was there a reason that you didn't look into DHS or start your application? Why you waited to 2018 before you even started?
When I wasn't involved in what happened when they made the insurance claim and they were repairing it, so I don't know what was going on. But when I filed it, because the program was ready, the work was done and was ready to receive kids. So at that point, we would apply and then DHS would come and, explore.
Well, there just seems to be a problem there with time element as a hardship. I mean, for me as a citizen. Okay, now you testified that DHS on the certificate, even though you say you don't have delinquents, the certificate allows you to have delinquents.
Are you asking if that's what the certificate says? Yes, that's what's on the certificate.
Okay, so,
It says dependent and delinquent, so we wouldn't be allowed to just have a delinquent child.
and you are oversaw by the DHS.
That's correct.
So if you have a delinquent or an offender in there, as far as they're concerned, you're not breaking any rules with them, because your certificate actually allows that.
Our contract doesn't allow us to receive a delinquent child. We couldn't. We
But
wouldn't be
your
allowed to.
certificate allows you.
I can't,
I think that's a problem citizens have, is that the DHS, which is overseeing you, has given you a certificate that allows delinquency, but our township zoning law doesn't allow delinquency. And I think that's the conflict that the citizens are having. Why are there so many differences in the reporting numbers that the lawyer had asked me about? Why are they not reported accurately?
that's the first I'm seeing the report. I don't have any way to analyze that and give you an answer at this moment.
You do realize that's a concern for the citizens when things aren't reported?
You are saying that, yes.
How did the fire start?
I don't have, knowledge of the event. I know of it, but I don't have particulars of it.
What is your title?
I'm the Vice President of Information Management.
You're the Vice President of Information Management, and you don't know how a fire started in your own facility?
So I manage like databases and things like that. I don't work in a program day to day, and I wouldn't perform like an investigation or explore further what would happen. That's not my role.
Are you aware, the testimony that I've heard last time and that I gathered from your testimony is that you say you are a similar group home as the original Duncan House.
Correct.
Are you aware of the differences? More than the similarities? Are you aware of the differences?
I'm aware of that the program before operated on a 24-hour basis and served residents with their day-to-day care.
Are you aware that the old program had elderly and this program has young adults?
Yeah.
Are you aware that it was considered a nursing convalescent home, and this has been established by other witnesses that there's troubled youth that has been there regardless of the reason?
I'm gonna object, I'm not sure that accurately reflects what was established.
Well, it does with the other testimony. I don't know if you were here last week.
I was.
But it does in the last testimony. You realize the certificate of compliance is different from the original Duncan House in your facility?
We would operate under a different regulations, but the purpose is the same.
Are you aware that the Duncan House had one fire call period, no police calls in all the years of existence? And you have had 40 police calls and 13 fire calls?
I'm not aware of what responded there.
Are you aware that the Duncan people were usually elderly or slightly mentally ill, like dementia, and the people that you have are no trouble use? You realize the difference in that?
I'm gonna object to the characterization of the young people at this program.
I think the record speaks for itself. You can object, I think the record speaks for itself. That's all I have.
Why don't we? I want to turn off. Get into the back. Yeah, in the back, go.
Rena Nicosia, Niculea. I apologize if I'm asking a question that you've already answered, because some of it I can't hear everything. So currently, are there children at the Children's First on Preston Ridge?
No, there's no one there right now.
Okay. When there was, I'm not sure when they were removed, but were any of them, have any of the children at the Children's First ever hurt themselves, others, or threatened anybody?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, will the, if they are put back in the Children's First on Preston Road, will they be attending the Conrad Weiser schools in the fall then?
They would, yeah. She had asked if the children, if they returned to the home, if they would attend the Conrad Weiser School District, and the answer was yes.
My name's Harry Faust. I live at I own the property at 442 Preston Road, immediately adjacent. Leonardo, our last meeting was June 24th. Paul was here, the owner of the property, tried to make the comparisons between when he had the retirement home and Child First. That was, let's see, 3 days before the windows were screwed shut and 4 days before one of the residents tried to set a fire in the first floor. Pretty much blew the comparisons right out the window. My concern is, what type of security measures do you take there to protect not only the residents, but the neighbors? I mean, do you search the rooms? What type of things are the residents allowed to have? Are they allowed to have matches?
No.
Okay, so when was the last time it was searched? I mean,
I
on
don't
June
know.
28th, they lit a mattress on fire.
I don't know when the last time that.
Okay, on June 26th, when there was an incident with smoking, well, the first of two incidents, there was a runaway incident that same night, but there was smoking on the roof. Are they allowed to have butane torches?
No, they should not have butane torches.
Okay, butane lighters?
They should not have any type of fire product.
Okay, well, there were butane torches on the roof on the 26th. So apparently, someone's not doing very well of checking the rooms, checking for contraband. Do you have any comment on that, or?
No.
I mean, is this common in any of your other facilities? Is it common to find contraband, or don't you search for it?
Sure, they search for it and they find contraband.
Okay, well, there was an incident Friday the 26th, Saturday the 27th, screwed the windows shut, and then Sunday the 28th, basically everyone seemed to be locked in that Saturday. So how'd they get the matches on Sunday to light the mattress? I just don't see the security here being adequate to protect not only the residents in the building, but the community itself. So I don't know if you have a comment on that, or?
I don't have a comment on that.
Okay, that'll be it.
Are we doing repeat questions?
It's not a repeat question.
I mean, a questioner. I don't know if we're just gonna keep looping through. It's
If you have a
okay.
question, you can object.
Is it
Go,
okay?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Microphone.
Who do the incidences get reported to, if not you?
So an incident would be put into our electronic system. It's then processed by the organization. It needs to be reported to the state, will be reported to the state. They're always reported to that individual's team. Answer your question?
So they get put into the system, and at what point, if any, does the state come back and say, what's happening?
The state would either call or question if they had a question about it. They don't always. They review all the incidents and then they close them out in the system.
So they review them all, and if there is an issue, if the state has an issue with the repetitive instances, who do they contact?
They would probably contact the quality control individual that we have.
So it never goes back to Child First itself.
She operates in a capacity for Child First. It's not, she's part of the organization, if that's what you're asking.
So if she feels that there's an issue, she would would
So-
she have a meeting with the people that are responsible for the residents?
So if, let's say, we report to the state has questions, they want more information, or they want clarification, or whatever, they would contact somebody within Child First, they would ask good questions, or whatever they had, we would answer them, and if they were answered sufficiently, that would be the end of it. If they had more questions, that would be ongoing. They can choose to do investigations, they could choose to,
Okay. You had said that there is no, that children are allowed to leave the premises and, wander or go to a destination of their choosing.
they're allowed to ask for permission to leave to go do something. Yeah.
Okay, so you would know at any given time who's not at the facility, not you personally.
The staff should be aware of who is, present on the premises and who is not at the time, yeah.
So they would be able to take a head count and say, there's 5 people here, but 5 are signed out.
Sure.
Is there a time when everybody must be back at the residence?
That would be a better question for somebody who would handle the program in the day-to-day. I don't know what the time is at that program, so.
Okay, so would that be
Yes.
more than?
Yes, yeah.
I wrote on every single little tiny piece of paper. I'm trying to find the question. Well, I guess this would go to the other gentleman, but I'm gonna ask it in short. Who was supervising the children the day of the fire?
He would be better able to answer that
Okay.
for you.
Thank you.
I have some follow-up questions.
Well, I think if we're done, actually, if you had a redirect,
I mean, I think, yeah, at this point, yeah, at this point, I have no redirect, so I think we're done with this witness.
I have questions following resident questions.
I think if there's no redirect, I think,
Well, some of the questions are relevant to this testimony. It's not some, there are questions that, one of the members of the Board of Supervisors does have.
will be that one.
yeah, no question. Then we'll get to the, I'm sorry, here's the other one.
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Burn, VYRNE, 99 Grandview Road. So, I hope you're feeling better. I know you were sick at the last hearing, so we had to delay, some of that stuff, so. Is it typical for your facilities to have this level of calls from the police and the fire, departments in the other areas that they serve?
No, not typically.
How do you propose you're gonna compensate the townships for all the time and money we've spent in the last 3 or 4 months on those issues?
That's not a decision I would make.
Okay, who would make that decision?
Somebody that's not me.
Like, who?
If you want to start with the owner, you can start with the owner.
Who's the owner?
His name is Dr. Williams.
Okay. All right, you had mentioned, so you're the vice president of information management, you manage database, so you were familiar with the whole, the pipe incident, correct?
I'm aware of it.
What happened?
My belief is that a pipe on the upper floor broke, and water had, I guess, come down through the property and caused some damage over a period of days.
Okay, and you had mentioned that they were working diligently over 4 years to fix that damage, correct?
Yeah.
What were they working on? You could have rebuilt the house 3 times in those 4 years.
When I became involved, the remodeling appeared to have been mostly done, except for, like I said, the parking lot and the windows and stuff, so I don't know the specifics of what they had changed to that property prior to me.
Okay, so you're stating that they replaced all the windows on the first floor, they're all new? in the last 5 years?
I don't think they replaced all of them, the majority, I would say.
Okay. Okay. And when you have the, I don't know what the right word would be, runaways or escapes, and you have to contact the police, how are they getting out? What route are they taking? Do you have security cameras?
I don't know how they exited the property.
Okay. And my follow-up question to that was then, like, what was the logic behind bracketing and screwing the window shut?
So that would be to prevent AWOLing out windows.
But you know they were doing that for a period of time, and that's a fact. You
I
can read
don't
the
know.
police report. Okay, you don't know that either.
No.
Okay. And you didn't expect to be asked these types of questions, like about the security of the facility?
We have another witness here to
Okay,
answer this.
I can ask him that next, okay. What are the certifications of your staff? Like, so if you have two guys there at one time, what are their certifications? Do they have professional?
I don't know the staff off the top of my head, so I can provide you with a certification.
You're the vice president of information management, you don't know what staff works at your facilities?
I'm not the vice president of certification. I don't deal with that part of the business.
Okay. I could probably Google it, so yeah, that's fine. Well, you probably don't know the answer to any of my other questions then. So were your staff employees or somebody from off-site ever asked to hide incidents or not report incidents to the police department?
Not that I would know of, no.
Okay. What if they were? That would be a significant problem, correct?
They would be dealt with.
Like a fire? Okay, okay. So when the fire occurred, the fire wasn't, they didn't try to call up the fire from a separate location, is that correct?
No, I don't know
You
anything
don't know,
about that.
right, you don't know, okay. All right, we'll confirm some of that stuff, but, okay, yeah, that's all I have. I thought you would have more answers to some of those questions, because they were pretty generic. So, we'll see if the next second, so, thank you.
I'm gonna plug in the test tube.
Next one is over here, but we could move you closer.
You move it down.
We'll just move it a little closer to the.
Yeah.
Pack up my suitcase and leave.
Big deal.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, ready for your next witness?
Yep. Andre Reams. Andre, would you grab that microphone for me? Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Reams. Could you state your name for the record?
Andre Reeves?
And do you work for Child First?
Yes,
How long have you worked for Child First?
nearly 3 years.
And what is your position at Child First?
I'm the senior engagement and opportunities, engagement and outcomes director for the Northeast region.
All right, and you heard a lot of questions regarding the operation of Duncan House. Do you have knowledge about the operation of Duncan House?
Yes,
Okay. Let me first direct your attention before we kind of get into how Duncan House operates to Exhibit A8 in the packet that I previously distributed. And these are all photos of Duncan House, correct?
correct,
And if you look at A8 Exhibit A, that's looking at the Duncan House from Preston Road, correct?
correct,
And if you look at, well, and in looking at photo A, there's a parking lot there in the front area, correct?
correct,
And photo B is another picture of Duncan House from North Galen Hall Road.
correct,
And if you look at the next page, picture C, is that a picture of the rear of the property?
yes,
And does photo D, it's kind of a little hard to see, but does that show additional parking?
yes,
And approximately how many parking spaces are on the property?
approximately 12,
Is the parking for members of Child First staff?
yes,
Do the children who live at the home ever own or drive cars?
no,
If you look at pictures E and F, do these show pictures of the interior living room areas?
yes,
And just, you know, for members of the audience, does it show a couch, chairs, TV, computer, something you see in any kind of house?
correct,
If you look at photo G, is this another shared living area in the house?
yes,
And photo H, would that be the kitchen area?
yes,
Okay. And if you look at I, is that the dining room area?
yes,
Do the children and youth that live at the house, do they help prepare the meals?
yes,
And do they eat together?
yes,
Do they take part in chores and other things around the house?
yes.
Could you just describe for the members of the board what kinds of things they would do as it relates to chores and other duties around the house?
That would start, make their bed, clean their room, clean their facility rooms, laundry, vacuuming,
Like any family or any kid that lives in a family?
yes,
Okay. And there's bedrooms and sleeping accommodations for the kids?
correct,
Is that picture J?
yes,
Does each bedroom accommodate 2 children?
mostly,
Okay. Now, there's been some question about staff. Do staff reside on the property?
yes,
And how many staff members would work at the home?
4,
Okay? And there'd be 2 at each property? I mean,
Correct.
2 for each not for each property, but 2 for the upper floor and 2 for the lower floor?
yes,
Okay. And do they provide 24-hour supervision?
yes.
Can you describe, I think somebody asked this question, but can you describe the function of the staff? What do they do? What are their responsibilities?
There to provide care and supervision, and support resources,
Okay? Do they also help the youth that are there with like medication and with any of their mental or emotional challenges or disabilities?
yes,
Do they work with them to teach them coping strategies, set goals, those types of things?
yes,
Okay. And ultimately, they're there to ensure their safety and health.
yes,
Okay. Do they also establish rules and do they have to, you know, discipline the youth if they don't follow those rules?
there's rules established, yes,
Okay. And for the time that youth are at Duncan House, do they treat that as their residence?
yes,
And would you agree that the use of Duncan House is in a family-like setting?
absolutely,
Okay? And that's important in terms of the services you're providing, right?
yes,
Because these are dependent children through no fault of their own have been taken from their home, right?
Yes,
And I think there's one thing I'd like to just clear up. There was some questions about whether dependent children go through the court system. Would you agree that before a child is declared dependent, there has to be a court proceeding,
correct.
and then they're determined dependent?
Yes, based on the findings of that court proceeding.
Right. So there's a process that would look at the family and the home and determine if the child should be removed because that environment is no longer safe or appropriate.
Yes,
And that's fundamentally different than a determination of delinquency, correct?
yes,
Delinquency is looking at if a youth committed some type of delinquent act,
yes, correct.
a crime. And that would require possibly placement in a detention facility,
Yes,
depending on what was committed and if they were adjudicated delinquent, correct?
correct.
Just so the record is very clear, Child First does not run a delinquent detention facility, correct?
We do not.
You only accept dependent children.
Yes,
Okay. Now, there was some discussion about the length of stay and the fact that the length of stay for the youth at Duncan House was shorter than what you would typically see at a group home. Did you hear Mr. Leopold's testimony about that?
yes,
And would you agree, based on your firsthand knowledge, that the combination of a new program and COVID-19 has dramatically affected the length of stay?
yes.
And can you explain why?
I think COVID-19 affected the lives of everyone. Most particularly our youth who have been traumatized in some way, shape, or form. They have,
So with the stay-at-home orders, they couldn't see their family,
they could not.
and they had to stay inside.
They did.
Okay. Based on your knowledge and experience in working at Duncan House and in group homes, is it your opinion that once COVID-19 passes and the house is established, that the duration of the youth that stay there will get longer?
Yeah, this calls for speculation and expert testimony, Mr. Williams is not qualified as an expert.
But I don't think it calls, it simply is his knowledge based on his experience with other houses.
But he hasn't had any experience with COVID-19, none of that. New.
And you're asking him specifically to speculate what's gonna happen after the test. I mean, to the point well taken, I mean, and I think we're kind of belaboring the point. He already testified about what he thinks normally happens.
All right, I'll move on, that's fine.
What's different here?
Okay. Now, there were some questions about the youth and that are there and their mental and emotional impairments and disabilities. Did you hear those questions?
Yes,
Let me just ask you this. Do the children's mental health or cognitive, emotional, or intellectual disabilities impair their ability to carry on major functions of life, for example, like caring for themselves, working, possibly attending school, having relationships with other people? Would the children at Duncan House have conditions that would impair their ability in those areas?
yes,
And does Duncan House provide those youth with those impairments the ability to live in a residential setting with appropriate supports from Child First, as would any other young person living in a family?
Yes.
Those are all the questions that I have. Yeah, I cleaned it up for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right, I'd like to look at applicant exhibits, and I believe they were the photographs of the windows,
You mean township
I
exhibit?
mean township exhibits, they're photographs of the windows. Not sure that they were marked
T3 and T4.
3 and 4. If you look at, do you have them in front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you look at them, do you agree with me that the window, appears to be in a closed position?
Windows are closed, yes.
Yes. And do you agree with me that there appear to be screws and brackets, holding those windows closed?
I don't agree with you that they hold them closed because they can be lifted with ventilation.
Okay, now when you say they can be lifted, you agree with me that those screws and brackets are intended to keep those windows closed, correct?
To a certain degree.
Okay, there's a limit the ability to open the windows, is that correct?
No,
It's not.
no, you actually, can you open them?
Right.
Yes.
Does it limit the ability to open the window? Does it limit the amount that the window could be opened?
Yes.
And does it limit that to an inch?
I'm not 100% based on this picture, what's the size of that?
Yeah. Is that common practice, in Child First, to screw and bracket windows in a closed position?
Objection, it's not in a closed
Or
position.
even partially closed? Is it common practice to insert screws and brackets into window frames?
To prevent the window from coming out, yes.
Is it to prevent the window from coming open?
Prevent the window from coming out, yes.
And when you say coming out,
This particular window can come out.
do you again, when you say come out, do you mean that these are new windows, correct?
I would assume so.
Okay, were you present during Mr. Leopold's testimony?
I was.
And didn't he testify as to replacement of the windows?
He testified that he was there to replace them. I was not, so I can't assume particular things.
So new windows are coming out and have to be screwed and bracketed shut?
Maybe you're not understanding. This particular window can go up and can come out.
Okay, and when you say come out, do you mean that it can fall out of place?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you mean it can open?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are limiting its ability to open. And why are you limiting its ability to open?
I didn't say that. I said the limited ability to come out. You can open the window up.
Okay, and how far can it open?
Not exactly 100% sure of the.
You're not sure how far it can open. But you agree that these screws and brackets were not sold with the window?
Again, I wasn't present when the window was purchased.
You agree that they appear to be aftermarket, correct?
Again, ma'am, I kind of.
Wait, can I stop a second? Have you ever been to Duncan House?
Yes.
I'm just kind of sure if he has any knowledge of what's going on there. So you work there at this facility?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you work at the facility, but you're not sure how far the window can open?
Again, it's open for space for ventilation. Your question was actually how far? I don't know the answer back.
And do you agree, though, that these windows are limited in their ability to open? And when you say come out, do you mean out in terms of ventilation, or do you mean that they would fall out, or do you mean that they could be used as a means of escape unless they're nailed shut?
Again, you asked me a question, can the windows be open? Yes.
Okay, how far can they be opened?
Again, I don't know that.
All right, that's fine, I'll move on. Okay, I have, two photographs that I would like marked. I believe we're up to, we do 10, 9, and 10?
Yes.
This is 9.
9 is the detox.
Okay. That's 9.
9.
10.
Nine is the walk, 10 is the door.
All right, does everybody have copies of it? I have, first, I'd like you to look at the first picture, which has been marked as Township Exhibit 9.
Yes,
Is this an interior door at Duncan House?
it is.
And,
I would assume it's an interior door. It's an interior door at Duncan House, yes. I'm not
Yes.
sure where.
all right, now it appears to be a device, on this door, which appears to be, there appears to be a key and a bracket on it. That's a locking device, isn't it?
No, ma'am.
All right, there's no lock on this?
No,
Okay, can you tell us what that is then?
that is a detox alarm.
And what is a detox alarm?
So you set the alarm, turn the key left for off, turn the key right for on. When the door opens, if it's on the on position, it will make a noise, so it's not an alarm.
Okay, why do you have this?
So that we can see who goes in and out when they're going in and out.
All right, going in and out of interior rooms?
This is a door leading to outside.
Okay, that is the door leading to the outside. Now you call it a detox, D-E-T-O-X
I think
alarm?
it's D-O or D-E. I'm not sure if it's D-E-T-E-X or D-O-T-E-X.
Okay, is it, so it's detox because it's not detox as in detoxification? Do any of, speaking of that, do any of the youth in the program have substance abuse issues?
They, at this particular program, I don't believe so.
You don't believe so, but do you know for a fact they don't?
One may have had, drug and alcohol, treatment or therapy.
Okay, and is that one of the therapies that's offered by Child First?
Yes,
And has it been offered at Duncan House?
yes, if we have a person who came to us prior who had issues with smoking, sure.
And looking at the photograph marked as, he says it issues of smoking. Do you mean tobacco or do you mean illegal drugs? Excuse me?
You asked me about smoking. If someone has an issue with smoking tobacco, we want to help them, we'll provide them drug and alcohol.
Are there other drugs, or have there been other problems, for example, with alcohol?
No.
Okay, and what about, illegal substances or illegal use of prescription drugs?
Again, if someone came to us that needed that the court said that that's one of the therapy sessions that they needed, prior to coming to us, we will provide that.
Now I'd like you to look at Exhibit 10. Is that the same door that's in Exhibit 9?
I would assume, I can't tell because Exhibit 9 does not have a full picture.
Okay, it appears to be the same, detect lock, alarm device on
Yes.
that door. It appears to be damaged. How long has this door been damaged?
Well, I would assume that it was damaged that day.
Okay, do you know when this door was damaged?
I believe it was that day.
Okay, when you say that date, do you know approximately what date that was?
I believe the fire happened on the 21st, and it was damaged on the 21st.
Okay, was it damaged by the fire?
I can't attest to that, I don't know what the fire people did.
Okay, was it, do you know if it was damaged before the fire?
It was a hole in the door. How much the fire people damaged it, I don't know.
Okay, but was there a hole in the door before the firefighters arrived?
Yes,
And was it caused by one of your residents?
yes.
Okay, what happened?
I'm gonna object to the relevance.
Well, as the community health, safety, and welfare, this is a variance application.
It's overall.
What happened?
I believe the kid kicked the, door.
Was it during an altercation?
No,
What caused the kid to kick through the door?
he was upset.
Know what he was upset about?
I believe actually they were, about the PlayStation.
Okay, and what about the PlayStation?
He wanted extra time on the PlayStation, his time was up, he was upset, kicked the door.
Okay, was it a staff member trying to limit his time with the PlayStation or?
No,
or
there's
another
times
child?
to set for the residents, his time was up, he was in the middle of the game, he wanted to play, his time was up, he was upset, he kicked the door, subsequently he calmed down, apologized for kicking the door.
Okay, what were the ramifications for his kicking that door?
What do you mean, if it's-
I'm gonna object, you can overrule it, but for the record, none of this is relevant to what
Well,
we're
the
here about.
staff, the training of the staff is very relevant, and what are appropriate, and what happens, in the home. is
Again,
very
I'm just gonna object to relevance. If it's a single-family home, you don't go in and ask every question about the kid that lives there and what happens inside.
Thank you.
So, again, I'm
Yeah,
just
you
gonna
jumped.
object.
Noted.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your
Can you
question?
tell me, what the ramifications? Yeah,
We use winning strategies.
excuse me?
We use winning strategies to engage with our children, the youth.
And what are winning strategies?
Again, Mr. Leopold testified that we deal with the 8 domain, so these are strategies that will work with that young person, engage with them to have outcomes, that we would like for this young man to deal with whatever issue that he's having.
And are those issues, that cause someone to kick a door in that way common in the childhood facility?
Again, our issues, if he has an issue, we use winning strategies to engage with him.
Right, but do you have to use those strategies often when someone kicks in the door and there's a large hole in it?
Because I can attest to that hole being made by him, there was a hole, but I also understand that the fire people use, different entries, and so I'm not sure if this became even bigger because of the fire department coming in.
If that door had been open, the firefighters, would have been able to get in without making a large hole in the door, correct?
Well, again, if they come in from the outside in, I would presume that they were trying to get in.
Wouldn't somebody have let them in if there was fire?
Not if everyone's outside, right?
Were you outside with them?
No, I was not there
Were you
present.
present on the day of the fire?
I was not present. I was actually on the phone. They were outside. The fire people came. The fire people made entry. How they got in from the outside, you have to ask the fire people.
But the door was locked, is that correct?
It's a front door, ma'am. I would presume that any person would lock their front door.
Well, if they wanted to let the firefighters in if there were fire, they might
Not me,
not.
ma'am. If a fire alarm is going off, I'm getting out. I'm not worrying about opening the door for the fire people.
Is there staff training in, response to incidents, such as, fire?
Yes,
And, is there staff training in reporting incidents to police and fire?
yes,
Is there staff training in, reportable incidents, to Department of Human Services?
yes,
Are the, staff at Duncan House trained in this?
yes.
Have they ever been advised, not to report an incident to the police, the firefighters, or the state?
No,
If I were to tell you that, on the day of the fire with the mattress on June 28th, that a staff member advised a firefighter that, advised dispatch that was a false alarm and not to respond, would you be surprised to hear that?
I would be surprised.
And, but you were not there, correct?
I was not there.
Are staff trained in security?
In security?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
In-house security, preventing incidents such as, youth running away.
We then would use winning strategies to engage.
Right. are they, how long are,
We don't provide security.
how long are staff trained in these winning strategies?
I don't know the exact hours regulated by the DHS, but it's ongoing. We have the initial, and then they have monthly, trainings several times a month. Several nights while they're on shift, they're in training, it's ongoing. We have a 10 o'clock call, that we have engagement, so there's an engagement with every staff ongoing while they're employed with Child First.
With the Duncan House staff, who are the staff members there? I'm not asking you by name, but by title. What staff members are present on site as supervision?
What are you asking?
I'm asking for.
24 hours?
24 hours.
That can be a EOS, which stands for Engagement and Outcome Specialist.
And that would be yourself?
No,
Such as yourself?
no.
Okay, isn't that your title, Engagement and Outcome Specialist?
No, ma'am.
What is your title?
My title is the Senior Engagement and Outcomes Director for the Northeast Region.
Senior Director of Engagement and Outcomes. So you are familiar with the Engagement and Outcomes program?
I'm sorry?
You are familiar with the Engagement and Outcomes Specialist role?
Yes.
And you have been in that role, correct, and got promoted?
No.
You've never been an Engagement and Outcomes Specialist, but you are the Senior Director for it?
I have been a director and been promoted to senior for the region, but no, I have not been an EOS.
You have, okay, so you have not been, what are the staff certifications required for the EOS position?
I off the top of my head, I do not know that that's the training, that's in training, you're going to training for that.
Is a high school diploma required?
Yes.
Is there anything beyond high school that is required?
I'm gonna
for
object to the
EOS?
relevance. How is this relevant?
Well, the supervision, the qualifications of the supervisors are relevant.
How is it relevant? It's regulated by
Well,
DHS.
Part of the problem, part of the issue.
He testified about you're providing services, and so I think it's fair to ask if someone's a bachelor in social worker, or what are they doing?
Again,
Why? What does that have to do with anything that we're here for? It's not relevant.
it has sustained overrule.
It's overruled.
So the requirements is regulated by the Department of DHS, Department of Human Services. Whatever the regulations are, that's what we are here.
Okay, and what standard are you adhering to?
The Department of Human Services.
Okay, and what does the Department of Human Services require?
Again, I would refer that, if you need that document, I'll be more than happy to submit it. That's something that the trainings and HR handle.
Okay, but you yourself, as the Senior Director of the E&O Specialist, you don't know that?
It's very elongated on what they're asking for. Again, I'll be more than happy to provide it, but that's the Department of Human Services issues that we comply with our HR department.
Okay, I'll move on to another issue. I had marked as an exhibit, the placement date of the
That was,
township. That might be 7? I believe it was township exhibit 7. I'd like you to look at that for a moment.
7 are the regulations, I think.
Okay, and it must be 8?
Are you looking at the one that I produced? Yeah,
Right,
that's
that you
8.
produced. Okay. All right, I'd like you to look at exhibit 8, and that was produced by your attorney, and it contains initials to protect the confidentiality of the young men at the facility, and their dates of placement. You have that in front of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at the dates of placement, do you agree that the longest placement is 111 days?
It seems about, again, me not doing the math in my head, but it seems about right.
Okay, and do you agree that there is a placement, the individual's initials are VW, between June 20th and June 23rd, that there's a placement that lasted for 3 days?
Yes,
And would you agree with me that most of the placements in this chart are for a period of 2 months or less?
it appears, without me looking further and doing the math, yes.
Okay. You testified to there being house rules. Who establishes the house rules?
Rules already established.
Okay, does Child First have an established set of house rules for its facility?
Yes, ma'am.
And, what, you talked about the winning strategy, but are there punishments for violating rules?
We do winning strategies, ma'am.
And are there punishments though?
We
Are
don't-
privileges taken away?
We use winning strategies, ma'am.
Okay, are privileges taken away?
What we do in terms of how do we engage, we only use winning strategies.
Okay, so there are no negative consequences, for
We don't
example,
do
for
negative
running away?
contracts, ma'am.
For running away?
Again, we use winning strategies.
For vandalism, winning strategies?
Yes.
And, can a child be, confined to the house, for example?
All
That's
the
ramifications.
children right now are quarantined, so.
Okay, the quarantine ended during these days, and even outside the quarantine, you've been there 3 years, quarantine is only the last few months. And under winning strategies, are there ramifications such as confinement to the house and taking away privileges for things like running away, or destroying property?
Again, our engagement is winning strategies. We engage our children, we believe that this is the best way to engage them, is to use our winning strategies to help them cope and become a better person.
You testified extensively about you are not a juvenile detention facility, and I'll agree to that, but isn't it correct that some of the children who are there may have been adjudicated delinquents but not sentenced to detention?
No, we have children who are all dependent. They may have a delinquent matter that came, but they're not adjudicated. That means they would have to be sentenced. And then that's not us. We're not a sentence for facilities for dependents. It's for delinquents.
But you don't deny that there could have been incidents where there is a matter pending before a court in Philadelphia County, as you said, that's
Again, they're coming to us because we have a delinquent matter.
These children, who are, and then they're actually young men, who are, or were at Denton House prior to trial, these children attend school, correct?
Yes,
All of them attend school, is that right?
correct.
And they're students in the public schools, Conroe River School District?
If that's the district, yes.
If that's the district?
Commonwealth, yes, that's the district.
Okay, you said if that's the district,
Again,
you don't know?
you're asking me a general question, when you specifically asking for this, you didn't say
Right.
that.
For Duncan House, are they the students of Conroe River School District?
Yes,
Do any of them attend any, private schools?
no,
None are working age, are they?
yes,
Okay. Do any of them hold jobs?
yes.
Okay, and what kind of jobs do they hold?
Again, I'm gonna object to how is this relevant?
Well,
Objection.
again, it goes to impact on the community.
Impact for
And
the
it also,
community for
and it
some,
also goes to whether or not they are disabled, because you bring ability to work.
Okay, so I would say to your question, you asked me, do they work? Yes, your statement was the impact on the community. I don't think any child who's working, whether himself, it has an impact on the community. I don't see it that way. You may have, I don't see it that way. They're having a good job, they get paid, they're saving their funds, doing something productive. I don't see how that's an impact on the community.
Well, the question actually is, you had said that they have conditions which limit their ability or impair their ability to work, or go to school, and self-care, and I'm going to the issue of work. Do they work outside of the home?
Yes,
And what kind of jobs do they do?
normal jobs,
What are normal jobs?
maybe fast food, wherever they depend, Family Dollar,
Okay, so they do work outside the home.
yes,
You spoke about, in terms of self-care, they feed themselves?
yes,
All of them who are Duncan House are capable of feeding themselves?
yes,
They're all capable of dressing themselves?
yes,
All capable of, toileting and bathing by themselves?
yes.
I don't have anything further.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If they work outside the home, how do they commute?
They'll be driven by staff, If the job is local and walking distance, they can walk. They'll be picked up. They can catch an Uber. Again, it depends on the locale of the job, and the nature of the job.
Next question is, you had said that COVID-19 affected these kids. COVID-19, we were sequestered, actually in the house. You couldn't go away, but yet on the report by the police chief, on the 2 months that you weren't allowed to leave, you had 15 runaways. Are they supervised? You said they have to sign out if they want to go out. How can you have 15 runaways when we weren't even allowed to leave our houses?
Good.
Again, I'm going to object. The stay-at-home order did not say you couldn't leave your house, but you can answer the question.
But he said they were confined to the home.
He
So,
said
I
that.
think your objection is overruled because there's no rule of evidence.
We had a
So,
court.
hang on, we got one at a time. If you heard the question, you can answer.
We had a quarantine, stay-home order, like everyone else. So again, you made a statement, a question, a statement, so I'm not sure where you.
Okay, how did they run away if you're supervising?
I never said that they have to do signing, I never mentioned that. You said I said that.
Oh, they can just run away?
That's not what you said. You said that they have to sign out. I never said that.
No, I didn't say sign out. You had said somebody said it. Maybe he said that they sign out.
You said I
Signed out.
You said I did not.
They don't sign out.
Okay.
Nobody counts heads. Nobody counts heads. The supervisors on duty don't know if there's 15.
If you have a question, sir, I'd be more
Yeah,
happy to answer.
are the
But you sound like
supervisors
you're making a statement.
are the supervisors that are on duty, do they have to count heads and know, or how do they know that these 15 runaways?
Again, so if a child walks out, that's why we have the alarms. The alarm go off, we do that to the left. You assess, it's only 6. It's not hard to do the math, that one's gone, which one is gone, and we notify the appropriate authorities at the time.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can you describe for me in detail what you mean by winning strategies when it comes to disciplinary actions?
Okay, if I heard your question correctly, because I really couldn't hear you, but you
Can
actually.
you describe to me what you mean by winning strategies as it relates to disciplinary action?
So we have a winning strategy manual that's over 365 different winning strategies that we can use to engage our youth. Those winning strategies sit around the 8 domains that we consider to make up a whole person. Now, I would be more than happy to get my book out of the car, but I don't think you want to stay here that long to talk about every strategy that we use, but it's 365 of them.
Can you give me an example?
So we talked about education, encouraging them to be the CEO of their own life. We talked about making positive choices. You can be part of the problem or part of the solution. We also talked about what truth you want to go for. So everything that we do with the winning strategies is in encouraging and empowering them. So we deal again, one will be dealing with life skills, and then making better choices, bigger actions. And so we deal with one is called H2O. That's humor, humility, optimism, mindfulness, and empowerment. So every choice that you make has to be centered on one of those 5. We call it the 5 person strategy. If they're not making those choices that are geared to that, that's when we engage them. Because we want them to make decisions that are going to have an impact on them, that be mindful. So whenever I make a decision, I got to be mindful of how this is going to affect me and the people around me. Empowerment. What the decision I'm making to empower that person? Optimism. So we have young men who go to school, they're in college. So how do we make them optimistic about their future? That's how we believe that we have to engage them. And so we use winning strategies along those lines. There's 365 of them, and I'll be more than happy to submit a copy to you to show how we engage our youth, but our youth are engaged through empowerment.
So there are no removal of privileges for disciplinary infractions.
Again, we do positive contracts, and so we'll sit down with that individual, we'll engage, we'll do a contract with them, we show them where we would like them for them to be, and how we engage with them. So again,
So there's no removal of privileges.
Sir, the answer that we do is winning strategies.
Oh,
I'd like to ask a question. Andre and Jeff, thank you for testifying. I appreciate that. We're here to gather information. And I'm a little confused about the discrepancy between the reports coming from Duncan House and then the reports of police and fire visits from the township.
Yes, sir.
And so who does the reporting in Duncan House about these events?
The staff will put them into our incident system, and then that will be filtered based on the incident, if it lies to go to DHS or just to the staff, to their external team.
Okay. And do you have any idea why there's such a discrepancy between reports, HCS and what the township's reporting?
Well, again, I have not had the opportunity to look through the report that I'm assuming the chief made here, so I can't really attest to that, but just looking at a few of them here, I would say if they're made by someone from the township, I'm assuming these are based on what it looks like, we were not notified of that.
Okay.
So you may have a lot more here than less here if they were called from the township. So again, I have not had a chance to compare this. This was just given to me.
Okay.
Momentarily.
Thank you.
Can't hear.
I think
He's asking if the audience would like to ask me a question.
Harry Faust again, 442 Preston Road. I have a question. You had some photos there of the Duncan House.
Yes, sir.
I believe they were lettered E, F, and G, some internal pictures. You described something about a television set and some other furniture.
From the
from inside the property. Or any of those pictures up the first floor?
Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming they were taken before the fire. Said something about a television set. Is that television set still intact, or that you're aware
There's some
of?
pictures that I see.
Yeah, they were numbered. You said, like, I think it was E, F, and G. You said something about a television set.
Yes, it was actually.
Okay. Was that television set destroyed the day of the fire?
Yes, no.
No, it was, the television set was not smashed the day of the fire, no
The television
computer?
set that was in this picture was not destroyed.
Okay, was there a television set destroyed on the first floor the day of the fire?
The screen was cracked.
The screen was cracked, okay. Were there any computers destroyed, or?
No.
There was no other damage other than what was caused by the fire?
Yes.
No, that was it, just the room the fire was in, there was no damage to doors or walls or
There
nothing
was
else?
damage to doors, yes.
Okay. Was that caused by the fire, or?
To the extent of what doors the fire person kicked in, I don't know. I do know
The
that.
fire personnel kicked it in, so there was no?
Can you let him answer the question?
Happy to
You have to let him finish answering before you cut him off.
So, as I testified earlier, there was a young man who kicked a few doors in with holes. Subsequently, a few of those doors were, further destroyed by the fire personnel.
Okay, all right, I was just questioning, making sure there was no further damage caused by the residents the day of the fire.
No, sir.
I was told there was other damage in there.
I will listen to hearsay, sir.
Okay, all right, that's all, thank you.
Is it reasonable for me to ask a question that either of the gentlemen can answer, whoever feels more
No,
qualified?
it's just this person right now.
I am aware for several years, since I live and pass the building at least twice daily, that there are some portals, doorway, window on the North Gilliland Hall side that have been blocked by plywood for several years, up until the present day, even before any actual residency or fire. Why is that plywood in the doorway and in the window?
Sir, there's no doorway. Even the pictures here show you, there's not one window.
I can take you there right now and show it to you.
Well, I guess you would see plywood now, sir.
You live there?
No, I don't live there, sir.
You are on premises daily?
Just about. Yeah, I can show you.
I'll come by tomorrow and show you.
Well, sir, again, if you want questions.
It is a question.
Actually, for both of you, just.
Yeah, I think the
Mr. you too, just stop. everyone stop, ask your question, and he can answer.
So am I answering or am I listening?
No, there's no question.
Question is about the 2 plywood portal blockings on the North Guildhall side of the property.
What's the question?
I'm wondering why they're there.
Your objection is overruled. Because I'm not sure what that means. But
There's a doorway that has no door in it, a plywood panel.
when you get, finish your question, you can answer your question then.
Okay, I'm wondering why that's there and if it's going to continue to be there. Same thing, there's a window adjacent to that doorway that is also blocked by plywood. It has been for several years. Why is that?
Okay, we were told that we needed to board up the window and then the doorway that was damaged from the prior people coming through. So therefore, that's why you see it today and boarded up.
It's been there for years.
Okay.
If 12 children are staying to a room, 2 to a room, and you have 20 rooms on the first floor and second floor in total approximately, what are the other bedroom size rooms being used for?
I'm sorry, say your question again, sir. I think you have misunderstanding here.
Okay, possibly I do. If 12 children are staying 2 to a room, is that correct?
Mostly.
Okay, mostly.
We do have 2 single rooms.
Okay, so let's say we have 14 rooms or whatever, and you have 20 rooms on the first and second floor. What are the other bedroom size rooms being used for?
Sir, again, your information is inaccurate. We do not have 20 rooms.
Okay, because I was asked that gentleman half an hour ago, and he said 10 and 10.
You have to let him answer the question. Go ahead.
Apparently, he wants to continue this question. I'll wait.
He's finished. You took your time.
So there are 3 bedrooms on the first floor. 1 staff room, that's total of 4 bedrooms. On the first floor, there are 3 bedrooms, 6 youth, 2 to each room.
Okay, I stand corrected. What floor is the kitchen on? Is there more than 1 kitchen? And what fuel sources are being used for the cooking devices?
There are kitchen on both floors, and I believe there are electric stoves.
So there's no gas in the facility.
No, sir.
If some of the underage youths have been taken from their homes specifically because of poor supervision by their parents or of those whom they are wards of, foster parents, etc., how is a program that appears to have very lax attitudes in terms of being aware of where their charges are at any given moment any better?
I can't properly answer that question because I disagree with you when you say we have a lax attitude. I disagree. So I don't know how to answer your question when I'm disagreeing with you.
Well, perhaps my next question will help you. Since they are not in legal detention, correct? Can a client just leave at any time? Since they were sent to the program via a mandate by legal apparatus, agencies, courts, are you under mandate to report the delinquency immediately upon discovery?
Yes. If I can understand you, it would be helpful if you ask one question first and then that, but let me understand that your first question was, again, can you repeat the first part?
Oh, I will. Since they are not in legal detention, can a client just leave at any time?
We don't have a lockdown facility, so they can open the door and walk out, yes.
Since they were sent to the program via a mandate by legal apparatus, agencies, courts, are you under mandate to report the delinquency immediately to those agencies that conscripted them to you?
Yes, we follow the DHS guidelines.
Is there an employee somewhere in your organization that is consciously aware and not just the computer that has logged information of those such delinquencies?
I'm sorry, there's such.
Is there an actual employee who's mentally
You
conscious?
said delinquencies, that's what I'm trying to get clarification.
Yes, is there-
I think in terms of terminology, that's not accurate.
Well, you'll have to bear with me. I'm not as well-schooled as you are. Since they were sent to the program via a mandate, you have to report it. How can you effectively carry out such responsibilities if you have no head counts during several times of the day? And this is a compound question.
Can I answer the first question first? I don't get lost.
Okay. How can you effectively carry out such responsibilities to report the delinquency immediately upon discovery if you have no head counts during several times of the day?
Okay, so we understand. Throughout the day, at all times, they're in eye and sight of the youth. Now, the youth walks out the home, that youth is reported. According to the guidelines established by DHS for reporting of a left for program without permission. So at any given time, each youth is accounted for, and if the kid leaves, then there's a process that we follow.
A kid leaves without requesting permission, without signing out. Okay.
Now, we do have children who leave because they have, community time, but then again, we're accounting for that.
Okay. Next question, which is a similar question and may be rendered ineffective by your answers, but I'll ask it anyway. How can you effectively carry out such responsibilities if a client merely announces that they are going for a walk wherever with no employee of the program passing judgment of the request?
No employee passing judgment on the request.
They do, they have to.
If the youth is asked, can they go? They have community time. If they deem that they're able to be in the community effectively, so yes, they can go in the community. Now, if a person leaves without permission, then it's accounted for, because we do follow a process to make individuals aware that that individual left without permission.
Okay, I'm getting to the end here. Does winning strategies mean that no matter how egregious the behavior of a client, that there are no limitation of privileges whatsoever? What is the most egregious one they could commit and still be allowed to stay in the program?
Again, if a person commits the level of an incident, we will engage that individual. Now, we've been doing this for 25 years.
And I've been asking for only 5 minutes, but.
And again, if you would like to further give questions, I'll listen, but we both can't talk at the same time. Okay? So 25 years of success that we've been doing, that we've been working with engagement, over 365 winning strategies. So again, if a kid does something that this is how we engage, you may not agree, and you're entitled to your opinion, sir. But if we have 25 years of winning strategies that we have now compiled into nearly a bestseller, I'm telling you, this is how we engage. Now, whether you choose to do that with your children or anyone else, that's yours. But for us, this is how we believe in success in building our young men. But if you have a second part of that.
There is a second part.
Sure.
I'm going to have to clarify before I can ask it, though, so it entails another question.
Yes, sir.
What is the worst infraction that could be committed while the client is allowed to remain in your premises, in the program?
Well, that's an open question. I don't know the answer to that question, like in terms of.
Well, murder would probably be something you'd get them out for.
Well, if someone committed murder, that's a crime.
Okay, so let's
if they
think
commit
about.
a crime, that's something that the police will be involved in.
Okay. What is something that the police would not be involved in, but would still mandate removal of the program for the client?
Again, if we feel that this person can continue to be engaged, they will be there.
I'm just asking for an example.
Again,
You told me the general principle.
if they commit an incident, that's not a crime, then we feel that this individual can continue to be engaged. So there are youth all across the world who have issues, but if we feel we can continue to engage them and we see behaviors changing, that's why we're entitled to Child First.
I think that's good.
We want to continue to engage. Now, if that child is effective in engaging, then that leads to different other options. But if we feel that this child, this youth, this young man can continue to be engaged, and his behavior can turn by effectively engaging him, yes, we're going to continue to do that. I personally have engaged a gentleman who now is in college. I couldn't give up on him. If I did, he would not be what he is today.
I appreciate your attitude, and I commend it.
Thank you, sir.
But my question asks, what is intolerable yet not criminal that would mandate someone having to leave?
Again, whatever it is, if to your, what the degree.
I'm asking for your example.
To me, we have a team of people, therapists, caseworkers. So again, whatever this individual commits, if we feel that it's a person that we can continue to work with, we will work with them. So what is egregious to you? Give me your example, I'll answer. But what is egregious to me is we're going to continue working with the kid until we feel that kid can't do it.
I need to know what is egregious to you.
I'm going to object to again, to the relevance of this. I mean, this is complete speculation about.
No, I'm asking for the professional's opinion. So who was
Probably-
present?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Probably, if we got an answer, then we would be done and move on, but we're not getting an answer. He asked the question, he's not
If a kid
answering.
kicks the door, we're gonna continue working with them.
Okay, what was an example of when you would not continue to work with them, aside from something where you call outside agencies, like the police?
If, again, I don't know what would you consider egregious, but I'm answering the question.
I think we're at the point, he's not, hang on,
can't
get to the
answer.
point, he's not gonna answer the question, so just
Yeah, I got two more.
take something else. Thank you.
Who is present on premises to interface with private members of the community should they visit at any reasonable time during the day?
Private members of the community?
In other words, individuals, people who live in the neighborhood.
If you want to meet with someone in administration, we'd be more than happy to do that. Visit the group homes, that's not.
No, I don't want to come inside and visit
Well, again,
clients.
you said visit. I'm assuming if you're saying come by, if I have a house, you visit, you're gonna come by.
When I ask who is present on premises to interface with private members, individuals of the community, I mean who's an official employee of Child's First is present to maybe come to the door and say, what's your concern?
We have staff that live there.
Okay, that would include yourself.
Yes.
My final question is, since you are here to convince the township and citizens of your positive attitudes in order to continue your organization's presence at Dankin House, how does it help your case by not being forthcoming and transparent on any related issue we asked to question? Instead of claiming non-relevancy, instead of your organization sending people who can't answer reasonable questions? That's rhetorical.
Did I?
Can I answer?
Yeah, you can answer.
Excuse me, sir?
Oh, I'll listen to an answer.
Yes. So, once again, I'm not here to debate, I'm not here to be disrespectful, I'm not here to come back. You may not like my answer, I respect that. I might not like your question, I respect that. But you're gonna get an answer. So, you're asking me about community engagement. Because I never met you, does not mean that we're not engaged in this community. And so, we have 22 group homes that we engage in our communities. So if I never met you, that's my apology. And I look forward to meeting you if we're there. But again, we are engaged in the community. That may not be to your level. That may not be to anyone level here. But to say that we have lack of trying to answer questions, that's not so. If I had lack to answer questions, I would just simply know, yes, I can't answer, no, I'm engaging you.
Thank you.
We can try to ask questions, to not repeat some of the questions that we already have gone through.
Yeah, I'm setting the timer now.
I'm here for my community, not to take up time. Trust me, I sacrifice things like everyone else to be here tonight.
I'm sorry, man, I didn't hear you.
I said, I am here like everyone else. I have much to do, but I sacrificed that to be here. I didn't come to take up time. My name is Marcia Forrest. Okay, you stated that there are 2 floors.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the children, can you hear me? Do
I
the
can.
children all sleep on one floor, or do they how many children sleep on one floor and how many sleep on
I
another?
believe it was answered earlier, but I'll answer it again. It's 6 on the first, 6 on the second.
You have to understand, we can only hear in part over fans and masks, so if
No,
we
no
are-
problem, take your time.
sometimes they have to be clarified. And you say that there's 24-hour supervision.
Yes, ma'am.
My question then is, they are there to ensure the health and safety, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What went wrong?
With what?
The fire?
There was a fire.
What went wrong? Where's the supervision?
Well,
It takes a while to start a fire.
I'm sorry?
It takes a while to start a fire. What
Yes.
went wrong?
There was a fire started, the door was closed.
Where was the supervision?
Again, ma'am, he was in the bedroom. So he started a fire in the bedroom.
So there's no
Close it.
there's no supervision in the bedroom.
Again, maybe you're not hearing me. He was in the bedroom with a closed door. It's a bedroom. You're allowed to go in the bedroom and close the door. He started a fire, came out, closed the door.
How many people are in the bedroom?
2 to a bedroom.
Okay, so there's two to a bedroom. Is there no supervision when they're in the bedroom? With the door closed?
They're sleeping in their room.
Not sleeping when they're starting a fire. Is there no
I
supervision?
100% agree with you.
Well, I think it speaks for itself, the supervision.
I understand.
What went wrong with the staff supervision when they're on the roof smoking?
Again, based on this, I'm assuming there was a call, someone saw someone smoking on the roof. I can attest to that.
How did he get out on the roof?
Again, I can attest to that. There was a call from a neighbor.
So
I'm assuming.
there was no follow-up on this incident?
Again, ma'am, I just got this today. I don't know if Chief Grimm is here, but I'd love to talk to him afterwards.
And your title is again what?
Senior? Engagement
Senior engagement?
and outcomes director.
I would think that falls in there, but what do I know? What are your duties?
Sorry, it's tough. Engagement and opportunities director, sorry.
What are your duties?
I supervise the Northeast region.
Supervising what?
The Northeast region programs.
So you're not responsible to understand in the supervision of what went on?
Yes, I am.
I just thought that would be a very relevant question, those two questions. Since they're 24-hour supervised, I just wanted to know what went wrong.
I explained that to you.
Okay, it was kind of a runaround answer. I'll go to the next one.
I'll be more than happy to answer it again if you like. I don't know how to run around.
We have an
Kids
answer,
started
we
the
have
fire.
an answer. I still don't know what went wrong.
Again.
If they're 24-hour supervised, how did they even get on the roof? And to me, if that happened and you investigate
Again,
that, by
that's an
now,
alleged.
I'm not finishing. You're not letting me finish. You said don't
Yeah.
talk over. Show me that respect.
Will do.
At this time, it didn't happen yesterday, and if you are the investigative person, I would think by now you would have an answer to that question, but since you cannot answer it, I will be told to move on, which is what I will do, because
I'll love to answer it. Please don't assume.
I didn't assume, I've
Okay,
asked
you
you
said-
3 times, I'm ready
No,
to
no.
call it out for them
Again,
for asking the 4th.
This was just given to me today.
That's not acceptable.
I understand, but if something's presented for me today, and we're in this setting, I don't think I'm gonna go to Chief Grimm until this is over to find out exactly what happened. If I was given this prior, I'd be more than happy. Trust me, I do.
I don't understand, as a chief investigator, why you haven't looked at that, why you don't have knowledge of it before today. That's what I'm not understanding. Well, I just got this today. Where are you as chief investigator that this has happened a while ago?
Okay, just to clarify, I don't know who told you I'm an investigator, I never said that.
Engagement, senior engagement, you wanna repeat that again?
Senior Engagement and Opportunities Director. I don't know where you got investigator from.
Well, you had something else with opportunities before that, but I'm gonna move on because I think it's pretty clear it's a runaround. So, not getting an answer to that, let me move on to, it is possible, or do you disagree? It is possible that a dependent child can be a youthful offender, but still not a delinquent. A delinquent means that he has actually went to court and been processed and has found guilty, whatever. But a dependent child can still be a youthful offender.
That's possible.
Youthful offenders are considered to be put into the detention centers. That's the problem this community has with this. So I'll move to the next question.
Wait, is that a question?
That's a question, and he answered.
No, he didn't answer it. He didn't.
He said it's possible. That's all I wanted to
You're
know.
asking me a generalized question, you never asked me.
You can have the stenographer read it back. I asked if it's possible, you said yes. I'm going to the next question. Thank you.
Please.
I'm trying. So, no one wants to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it. Are there security protections for 2 boys in a room? That concerns me. We have 2 boys in a room, ages 13 to 18. When those 2 boys are in the room at night, and they're allowed to close the doors. I know of centers that they're not allowed to close the doors. they're allowed to close the door. What protection does a 13-year-old have against an older child that they're placed with in that room?
I'm going to object to the question.
It's part of their establishment.
These are dependent children. They are not predators. I mean, what in the world are you asking? I object to the question. It's inappropriate, has nothing to do with this.
That actually, you're probably right, overall, if they get to the issues that are relating to the zoning of this,
I'm asking the same questions the other people ask. If you want to calm me down, but it'll be on record. That's up to the township. You won't like the next question either. Are you aware that 1/3 of all sexual predators are under the age of 18 years old?
Again, I'm going to object to the relevance of this.
It's relevant when with
Okay, ma'am, maybe you don't, okay, let me help you.
It's not relevant, and I object.
All right, so we can assume that there's sexual offenders there.
I'm going to object to that comment as well.
well, you gotta move on to something that's relevant.
We do that when they don't want to answer. I get it. That's the way it's been at most the meetings here. It's almost why I don't come anymore. So you can't even answer if there are that type of offender there.
We have dependency, man.
Again, objection. There is no delinquent youth here.
Back them up. I don't care. I ask you to on record. We asked about the winning strategy. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. But, so the incidents that were entered by the staff.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have to try to understand if the staff is required to enter these incidents, that the discrepancies, these incidents comes from the staff?
Can you elaborate what you mean by this?
Well, if there's,
Discrepancies, I don't know what that means.
well, you agree there's discrepancies in the numbers.
Discrepancies?
Yeah, you agree to that. We can roll that back too if you want.
It's two different things, man.
There's discrepancies in the numbers reported to the DHS and to the police. There's extreme discrepancies in the numbers reported. You've been asked by me and quite a few other citizens, why are these discrepancies? You said you don't know. So we asked who entered these, and you said the staff. So the question is, after repeating this, is then we have to assume that the staff are responsible. They're the ones who made the mistakes in the reporting of the incidents, and that's why there's a discrepancy.
Okay. So again, I'll answer. If you look at the list here, and I'm not sure if you're privy to this, looks like some of these calls have been made by members of the community. So if they've been made by members of the community, how would I know about these calls?
Well, we should have someone here that can answer these questions.
Okay, so I'm answering the question then. If the list here, apparently these are calls made by other outside people outside of Child First.
Yes,
So for instance, if someone called outside of Child First
yes,
to the 911,
yes.
how am I to know?
Very easily. You want me to answer your questions now? I will. When the police show up, which they have 40 times and 13 fire calls and 40 calls, when the fire company shows up and the police show up, hello, that's an incident. And it should be reported. That's how you know. Does that answer your question?
I don't have questions for you, ma'am. I'm
You
just
just
being
asked me, I'm answering it.
Again, if
Okay.
someone called,
I'm moving on because you want to say ring around the rosy.
I don't have a ring around the
No.
rosy, man. Again,
Okay,
if
is
someone
your
called
staff,
and the police did not show up,
All right, no, it's not a question in front of you.
is your staff licensed in their positions to give out medication?
yes, there's a training certificate to do so.
Every person, and you have 4 people on staff, and someone on that staff at all times is qualified to give out medicine.
Yes,
What is their certification?
again, they're trained and certified to give out medications.
They have a medical certification to do that?
Yes, they've been trained by a qualified trainer. Enrolled in training, there's several levels of training for them to be able to give out meds. And that's in accordance with DHS rules and regulations.
And here's one I'm going to try, but we didn't get too far either. What was the purpose of screwing and bracketing the members? What was the purpose? Simple question.
So it's
It's been asked and answered multiple.
Well, maybe I didn't hear it sitting over yonder. Do you mind? Because I mean, the lawyer asked it 5 times and she never did get clarity. She moved on. I'm asking specifically a different. I'm asking, what was the purpose of Child First for screwing those windows? He hasn't really answered that. I want to know what the purpose is.
Okay. Now, you're confusing me. You said you didn't hear, but then you said you did hear.
She asked it 5 times. She never got an answer. She moved
I
on.
did answer.
Andre, just answer the question.
So again, it was put in for ventilation purposes. So it can go up to a certain level, normally to the piece that comes out to the tag, and that was the purpose of there. So that, again, those individuals do not use that window. So for the purposes, there's doors that they can go out.
Are they opening wide enough that the youth can escape in the event of a fire that they couldn't get out?
They're used to the level of ventilation.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking, do they open wide enough for a youth to escape in the event of a fire?
Yes.
Wow.
Just for the record, can I just, for the record, who that individual was and why we just took a break?
I don't know. That was the chief of police that stood her out, so I have no idea. Maybe she got an emergency phone call. I guess it's good on.
Do you have a question? You want to keep moving?
Sure. Not gonna get pulled away.
The answer to questions, I don't know. And then, again, if we can, we're getting very late, we get to things that weren't asked before.
Okay. Well, this might have been asked, but I don't remember his answer. How long have you been working with Children's First?
Child First, and I've been there nearly 3 years.
3 years?
Nearly 3, that's right.
Not at this particular facility, I mean, any of them?
Yes.
Do you ever get close, emotionally to the children?
I'm gonna object to the relevance. How's that relevant?
Because I have other questions that go.
But we're here for a zoning.
And he did answer that he said about the guy that went to college,
I have
so
to
he does.
sustain the question, we have to get to zoning. You were going to, just ask the question that where you're,
I'm sorry, what?
you said you had a question that, you're, I guess, getting to. When you get to the issue that you want to talk about.
Okay. In your experience, how often do the children, graduate from high school that you've worked with?
We've had several young men and ladies go to higher education or trade school.
Several to you, 4?
I don't have an exact number, man. We have 22 group homes.
Okay, so you don't pay attention if they graduate?
I'm gonna object again to the relevance of who graduates from high school or goes to college. How is that relevant?
Because, again, my next question is, how often do the same people that are put in this home, how often do they get arrested? What happens down the line? So, this zoning people that are.
There was an objection. I'm waiting to see if they will sustain the whole.
This is well beyond the scope of.
I'm just asking because I want to know if the zoning is allowing this particular place to stay there when you're saying that these children are safe. I want to know how often are these same children, do they get arrested? Do they end up in prison? In your opinion, because you had said that you are
None of the boys that
experienced.
thinking have been arrested.
None of them right now. I mean, but in your experience.
Again, I'm gonna
I can't-
object.
I
This
can't
is
predict
called,
the future,
just
but
this calls for complete speculation. It's well beyond the scope.
But you let them answer other questions because.
Ma'am,
of experience.
it does not go to the use of the property.
You're asking things that haven't happened, so if you, again, we're talking about questions that relate to zoning and really things that, I don't
How do
know,
we
things you
know?
can answer.
But how do we know that that hasn't happened though? Because he's
Well, you're talking about
worked
something in
there
the
for 3
future,
years.
so just, would you ask your next question and we'll go from there.
That's all my question. I just wanted to know what kind of facility it was.
Can I please get my paper?
Yeah.
And I just want to say one thing. 60 hours of testimony the state gave last year. The citizens got 1 hour combined to testify. The state got 60 hours. The minute you start getting somewhere, it'll shut you down.
If this isn't testimony, this is asking questions.
We never got to testify.
You will have your opportunity.
No, we had 1 hour to testify. One, they had 60. Citizens won't come out to these meetings.
Can you tell me what time are all the children supposed to be in the home at night?
In terms of the curfew?
Yeah.
Or, again, we have young men who work, so they work jobs that are past time, but generally our curfew in the house is 7 o'clock.
Okay, so at 7 o'clock, if you would know who may be working, so that they would
Yeah.
not make the 7 o'clock. How long, if you had said something about, if a child walks out without permission, how long after that do you notify the police that somebody has left the residence without permission, so you have no idea where they're going?
DHS says we have 4 hours.
Excuse me?
DHS says we have 4 hours.
4 hours. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Has they ever contacted you personally regarding any of the numerous incidents that go on at the house? Yeah, the house.
At the Jenkins house?
Yes.
Yes, I have been, at meetings with them.
Okay. Can you clarify something for me? Everybody else in this room, I'm sure knows the answer, but I don't.
Okay.
House 1, house 2. Which is which?
Floors.
What?
Jenkins 1
Is where?
is the first floor. It's not bad.
So it's not like the ranch house and then the, okay.
It's Jenkins 1 because it's the first floor, Jenkins 2.
Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. You said
Sometimes
that,
that's right, Lisa.
you said that there's 4 staff, 2 per floor,
Yes, ma'am.
24 hour supervision.
Yes.
Do you think that is adequate?
Yes.
Then can you tell me, I understand that the fire started in a bedroom with a closed door. Do you think a sprinkler system would have assisted in putting that fire out earlier?
Perhaps it would have.
Do you think maybe a smoke detector would have been sufficient?
Smoke detector didn't work.
But the smoke, you do have smoke detectors, you don't have sprinklers, but you do have smoke detectors.
Yes, that's how we related to, it's hardwired to the central station, so that's how we related.
Okay. You had also said during the stay-at-home order, that some of the children were understandably stressed because they couldn't contact their family members and they didn't know what was going on. Is that correct?
Then that was the testimony of Mr. Lincoln.
Okay, I'm sorry. Does anybody in at your staff, would anybody call, like, FaceTime with, the children's families?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. I'm not accusing you of anything, I'm
No,
just curious.
I'm answering your question.
The day of the fire, how many residents were at the house?
I believe 5.
So there was more than enough staff to, no! Press a key. Somebody press a key.
Oh, fast.
So you think that there was more than enough staff
That
to
on?
contain the children to be safe?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's all.
Sean just
Thank
did it.
you.
Shouldn't touch it.
Sean just